Okay, it's 7:45, so we will get started. Welcome to the March meeting of Joining Forces for Treasure Valley Veterans. We didn't meet last month. I actually was quite sick last month, so I canceled everything that week. And so we're back together. In January, I mentioned that I wanted to report each month how much money Joining Forces had contributed to different requests that I had sent out over the month. And so I do have a figure since our January meeting up through yesterday, when I've sent out a request for help for a veteran. Maybe we've needed some rent assistance. We had a pump that we bought for a veteran over in Fruitland. Since January, Joining Forces has contributed $14,062. And that is just $50 here, $500 there from all of you. So thank you for all of your contributions, and thank you for passing my emails along. Sometimes I'll get an email from someone that I have no idea who they are, but they say, hey, I want to contribute to this particular veteran, and it's greatly appreciated. So thank you. Today we have our staff from Idaho Division of Veteran Services, and our Chief Administrator, Mark Champel, was going to be with us this morning, but he was called to the Capitol for a meeting with the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee, which is probably a good thing. They probably want to just clarify some details on our budget request so that they can approve it. That I always think positive, so that's what I'm hoping for. Tracy Schaner, our Deputy Administrator, has joined us this morning. And Tracy and I were together yesterday in Post Falls touring the construction of the Post Falls Veterans Home up here, and it's going quite well. And Tracy's on her way back home today, but she has joined us this morning to give us an update on things that are going on with IDVS. Tracy?
Yep. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mitzi. I am Tracy Schaner. I'm the Deputy Chief Administrator at the Idaho Division of Veteran Services, and thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to join the meeting. A quick update on the Veteran Services, what we have going on, and our Chief Administrator, Mark Champel, he is at the Capitol at the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee. They are presenting this morning Governor Little's Leading Idaho proposed capital infrastructure budget. And so he is there to attend that infrastructure budget because there is a piece of that infrastructure budget that is part of the Idaho Division of Veteran Services, and that is for $75 million to go toward our 3 state veterans homes so that we can change those from double occupancy rooms to single occupancy rooms with private rooms with private baths. And that $75 million would go toward our state match and a federal grant. It's a 35-65, so the federal VA would pay 65% of those capital improvements, and the state would pay the 35%. So that's what the $75 million is for. So we're very hopeful that that'll go through the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee and approved by both the Senate and the House. So that we can go ahead and move forward, because it's very much needed for our 3 veterans homes to be able to have those single occupancy rooms. We found out during COVID that there was a greater reduction across the nation when you looked at facilities that had the ability to quarantine residents in their own rooms versus having shared rooms or shared bathrooms. And our facilities right now are set up that the majority of them do have double occupancy with 4 people sharing 1 bath. So this is a great thing for all 3 state veterans homes. We're very, very excited about the ability to be able to move forward. We did do feasibility studies on those 3 homes, and we would be looking at if we are able to move forward, we would be able to move forward with putting those grants in and moving forward as early as June, July, and August on those homes as far as meeting the deliverables for the grants. So that's very exciting. I will let James Earp, our director of the cemetery, talk a little bit about when it's his turn to talk a little bit about our grant that we have in for the expansion of the cemetery. We do have another grant in that would be 100% funded by the VA should we get that grant. And that's to expand the Boise Cemetery or memorial wall for a scatter garden and two new column-bearing walls. And it would also do a survey on the lower plots for the urn burial area. And so we would be excited to be able to expand that cemetery as well. And then other things that we're looking at is our fourth veterans home. Just a quick update. Mitzi mentioned that we were in Post Falls, and then I'm on my way home today from Post Falls, and we're very excited. We're on schedule for Post Falls. That's a 64-bed private room, private bath facility. It's going to be state of the art. We were able to incorporate the COVID pieces into that. So we were able to get grants that were 100% funded. The additional grants were 100% funded for the COVID improvements. And that was so that we could incorporate improved HVAC system. We put oxygen, piped oxygen in every single room, and we improved the durable surfaces, and we were also able to incorporate visitation suites for our residents, as well as a separate area for staff to enter into a locker room on a separate entrance from where we have our visitors entering. That way they can enter in the back entrance, change into scrubs, and go through a screening process before they enter into the buildings for this safety and security of the building and our residents. So we're pretty excited about being on schedule. We're looking at fall of this year of being able to open, and we're on schedule for that and looking at taking admissions for residents. Hopefully at the end of November, 1st of December. So more information to come on when our dedication ceremony is, but we're hoping for November of this year where we can dedicate that facility. So that's very exciting. One last piece of information I want to share is that our governor last month did appoint a new commissioner to our Idaho Veterans Affairs Commission. They're an advisory commission for our agency, and Rocky Davis of Lewiston was appointed to the commission. So we're very excited about that. He was a prior Veterans Service officer, so he does know our agency fairly well. And again, we're very excited. So if you know Rocky Davis, please give him a congratulations. And with that, that is my overview, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions, Tracy? Did I hear someone? Thought I did. I must say, part of the reason that Idaho has been so lucky on receiving these grants from the VA is the work that Tracy and her staff have done to lay the groundwork. It is a long process. You can't just decide we're going to build a veterans home or we're going to expand the cemetery and put in an application and find out. You need to have the groundwork laid, plans, feasibility studies, that sort of thing, and then you go on a list with the VA, and then they just start at the top of the list and go down, and a lot of times they kick somebody off the list because they don't have all their boxes checked. And we have been very lucky that we have risen up through the ranks of the list each time and been granted those and haven't been kicked off, as far as I know. Is that correct, Tracy?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, there's a priority list, so we're hoping that the 3 homes will be on the priority list this next year, which will be about a year from now, and we'll know if we can move forward with those facilities should the legislature give us the appropriation with the $75 million that's coming out. And so we're pretty excited that maybe next year we may get one of those grants that we can move forward. And we're hopeful that they would probably be Boise. They would probably be at the top of the priority list based on when we submitted the grant for the Boise replacement home.
So Sounds great. Can you just speak on that just a little bit? It will be a replacement for the existing structure. Can you tell us anything about the plans on that?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Mitzi. So we were looking at different property initially for the Boise facility, but we realized that the best place for our veterans would be on the same property as the VA. In order to do that, we would have to demo the east wing of the building. With the grant, we cannot displace any residents. And so when we do that, the east wing, our residents would move over to our west side of the facility. And with that, we would be building upwards. 5 stories is what we're looking at. We have a concept drawing for that. It would be a 152-bed facility. And then after that has been built, our residents would move over into the new building. And again, that is under the small home design concept that the VA has given approval and guidance and recommendations on following. We would follow that same guidance through the VA to build that building. When residents have moved it over, we would then demo the second half and finish the infrastructure for parking and so forth for that building. So it would be about a 2 to 2.5 year project. And again, we would be hopeful that maybe we will get our grant next year, but it all depends on where you are placed, as Mitzi said, on that priority list through the VA.
Okay, thank you. One thing I've noticed being on the campus with all the construction, the veterans at the homes, that is a big entertainment for them, is watching the construction and seeing the progress that has been made. So I'm sure that they'll be looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us, Tracy.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Okay. Our next guest will be Rick Holloway, and he is the administrator of the Boise Veterans Home. And Rick, I just wanted to have you give us some updates on what's going on at the home as far as COVID procedures and what we're looking at moving forward this spring.
Sure, thanks, Mitzi. So the Boise home is, in terms of census and patient days, is actually the largest nursing facility in the state of Idaho. A lot of people don't realize that, but we do have a higher census than any other skilled nursing facility in the state. Despite that, we are still being very cautious with regards to COVID precautions. We still screen every single person coming into this facility. Every staff member comes in and goes through screening, being tested through what they call a PCR testing twice a week. That's all the tests are being done by the VA Medical Center across the street. And then when they come in here, then they change in scrubs, which, I have gone through my entire professional life wearing a shirt and tie and to work, and so for the last 2 years, though, it's been scrubs. But that's the way we've been doing to protect our veterans and to prevent the spread of COVID. One of the things that's happened with doing PCR testing, we also do what they call POC testing, which is the rapid test. That's a 15-minute test that you can actually buy through Walmart and so on. Is that we have rapid identification of any positive cases, and we can remove that staff member from the facility. Over the last several months, we've had several staff members who have been positive, but we've been able to control the spread of COVID within this facility because we're so diligent in protecting our veterans from anybody who could potentially come in, not only staff members but also visitors. We're very, very fortunate that we have a terrific relationship with the VA Medical Center across the street. I know that's not something that always happens across the United States, but here in Boise, we do have that great relationship. And it's because of that partnership and being able to get these rapid test results back from the VA that we can quickly identify any positive cases among staff. So that's continuing on. You'll hear in some of the news articles around that COVID's going down, and so we're relaxing the mask mandates and so on. We're still under CMS regulations, and that has not been relaxed. And so we're, as you can see here in the Boise home, we do have a couple of positive staff members, and so as long as we have any positive cases, we continue to wear N95 masks. We don't have any problem with PPE. We have plenty of it on hand, but we will continue to follow CMS guidelines and also our own guidelines, and making sure that again we're doing everything we can to protect our veterans. We have not had an outbreak in this facility. We had a big outbreak starting in October of 2020. That concluded about January 1st of 2021. We had a couple of positive cases that happened a few months ago, but since then we have not had any positive resident cases. Survey-wise, we did finally get our state survey from the state 3 years after our previous survey. Usually their surveys are done on an annual basis. Because of COVID, that changed everything. We had our state survey. Despite not being surveyed for 3 years, we only ended up with 3 minor tags. It was a terrific survey, and it's a testament to the dedication of our staff in implementing all of the policy procedures that we have to, again, not only adhering to state and federal regulations, but also taking good quality care of our residents. We've got listed, if you...
I was just going to mention, we have a lot of people that may not be familiar when you use the word survey. Can you explain what the survey is and the requirements?
Yeah, sure. So nursing facilities do receive a survey. The survey is people from the state. It's actually a federal survey, but it's done through the State Bureau of Facility Standards. And so they have a team that comes in and makes sure that we are in compliance with all of the federal regulations as well as the state regulations. It is a very intensive process, and I've been an administrator for now 32 years. I've been through hundreds of surveys, and every time you have to again adhere to every regulation, but some of those regulations are conflicting, and so if you meet one, then you might not meet another. So but we have a team here that understands the regulations, and so we do everything we can to meet the regulations. Still, survey is a very stressful time because the process is set up so that a single instance can actually cause a pretty significant negative finding on a survey. So not only, because we're a state veterans home, not only do we get surveyed by the state, but we also get surveyed by the VA. That VA survey is coming up probably around April or so. So we're working on making sure that we're continuing to be in compliance with all the VA regulations. A lot of those crossover. So if you meet the states, or if you meet the CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, if you meet those requirements, then you're going to meet the VA survey. But it's not always exactly the same. So we need to make sure that we're following both. So that's what survey is all about.
Thanks for that explanation.
Yeah. So if you saw the news last fall, around November or so, we did get listed as one of the best nursing homes in the state of Idaho by U.S. News and World Report. That is the 3rd consecutive year that this facility has received that designation, and so we're pretty proud of that. If you look on the CMS 5-star website, you'll notice that we are currently overall a 3-star facility, out 3 out of 5. However, when our survey that just happened back in December, when that gets input and updated into their system, we'll end up being a 5-star facility. So this again, despite COVID, despite everything else, we're doing everything we can to provide that high quality care for our veterans. Our biggest challenge right now is staffing. We can't always compete with the wages that some of the other facilities can provide, but we are extremely competitive when it comes to benefits. But our biggest challenge right now is getting staff. So we're not admitting as many as we ordinarily would because we want to make sure that we're taking care of the veterans that we have without sacrificing that quality of care. That's kind of a big summary of everything that's happening here at the Boise home. We got a terrific team here. We try to do fun things with our staff as well as our residents, and our patient satisfaction scores, I think, are testament to what we're doing. We have a 100% favorability rating among our residents and our family members. Our patient satisfaction scores are the highest that they've been ever, especially over the last 6 months. And so, again, what we're providing for these veterans and families is pretty remarkable. So I'm pretty proud of our team.
Does anybody have any questions for Rick? Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I sure appreciate it. As Rick mentioned, staffing is a huge issue, but we're finding that across the board with all medical entities, St. Luke's, St. Al's, your local doctor office and things. But I have to say, it's a fun place over there at the Boise home. And if you know somebody that is a registered nurse or a CNA, something like that, have them check out our positions that are available at the Boise home, because it's not just a job. I mean, it's an honor to work with those veterans and things. And so I encourage everyone to get the word out about that.
Yeah, and our staffing ratios are considerably higher than the private sector. We have had people who have left to go to work for $4 or $5 an hour more at another skilled nursing facility, and then they come back because in one case they went over to a facility and they had 54 residents in the facility, and during a normal shift they would have 2 CNAs, a licensed nurse, and a charge nurse. So 4 people for 54 to 58 residents. We would never do that. So we continue to monitor our staffing levels to make sure that we're providing that care, and we're watching our admissions so that we don't we haven't stopped admissions. We admitted one just recently, just a couple days ago, but we're watching it very closely to where it continues to strike that balance between admitting residents and also being able to provide the quality care for them.
Okay, thank you. I know we talked in Post Falls yesterday, a brand new facility, 64 beds, and we're going to have to hire staff for that. But it is one of the most up-to-date facilities that you will ever see, and there's a lot of buzz around town, people wanting to work there and things, and so we're very hopeful that we'll be able to staff that when it's open this fall. Okay, our next guest is JoAnn Daron. She's the volunteer coordinator at the Boise Veterans Home, and she coordinates a lot of the activities that the veterans do and brings in the volunteers to help the staff. And I know when COVID started and we couldn't have volunteers come in, it really impacted our services at the Boise Veterans Home, because you have such a great program set up that the volunteers contribute a lot of man hours.
Thank you, Missy, and thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everybody. You're right, Missy. COVID literally shut our doors, which has never happened. And they've more or less been shut for 2 years. The community can come in. Visitors can come in to visit a person, but they can't go anywhere else in the home. Our dining room is still shut down, so residents are still eating on their floors. So there's been some really drastic changes with COVID. But interestingly enough, in the volunteer community, you guys are so amazing that despite that, you still found ways to impact how we do what we do at the Veterans Home, and it's been really tremendous, the love that they've shared for the veterans here. Recently, we have been allowed to allow volunteers back in. The The process is a little bit different. There's some training that goes on beforehand. It's an in-person training. And once we get that done, then volunteers can really come in and, do those one-to-one visits. They help with meal passing, and they help us with our activities. One of our challenges, of course, our residents, they aren't going down into the dining room. They aren't going around the home, largely because we've asked them to stay on their units. But now that they've all been vaccinated and they've got their boosters, they can move around a little bit more. And we're trying to provide an incentive for them. Hey, come on out, come visit, get dressed for the day, and come do some things. So we brought in an arcade. Right? Who love an arcade? And so that was a lot of fun. So in the newsletter, I had some pictures of the guys at the shooting gallery, and they were driving, and lots of jokes flying around about why their licenses got revoked and not being able to hit the broadside of a barn and all of that kind of stuff. But really for us, the big win was seeing them get down and doing some socializing and going other places. So we had 566 volunteer hours last month. Some of that is donation type of things, but we had about 400 of those hours were actually in our building helping. And we have a tremendous need for volunteers. Rick mentioned and Tracy mentioned our staffing challenges. That is no joke. And having volunteers come in to help out, to do the things that they can, gives the staff just a little bit of a break, but also volunteers change the atmosphere inside the home, because they go and visit with the guys and they have that time to ask how they're doing. And hey, do you want to go down to the canteen and get some coffee, or how about a quick game of cards or something like that? They change their whole day. So as many volunteers as people want to send me, we will work on getting them into the building and get them working with our guys. I do have 2 special requests. So one of my volunteers, his name is Fabbi, and a Vietnam veteran, wonderful gentleman, been serving the Veterans Home for years. His health is failing. What he does is he goes around to all of the Starbucks in the community and picks up coffee, and he brings it to the Veterans Home. And so our veterans are kind of spoiled, well, in a way, because they really get this great coffee. Fabbi is looking for a volunteer to help him to pick up that route and take his place. So that's request number 1. If you have somebody who likes to drive and who can help us with that, just reach out to me. I was talking with our nurse manager, and he says, JoAnn, I think I need some help. He says, here's my challenge. We need to clean our wheelchairs, and we can only do it at night when the guys are sleeping. And he goes, I think this is the golden unicorn. I don't think we're ever going to find it, but I know our community is really awesome. There might be a night owl out there who would go through our process to become a volunteer and come help us. They need somebody, say, from 10 o'clock on to come in and help us clean those wheelchairs, so we have some really nice, clean, shiny wheels to get around the home in. So that's my 2 requests that I'm really looking for. Other than that, our big focus this month is really going to be on the celebrations that we're starting to do more. We started Pinochle this week, which we haven't played cards, which is a favorite pastime for quite a while. That's a big deal, but things are starting to get a little bit better. We have a long ways to go, and so if you want to be coming and joining us and helping us through that process, we'd love to have you. And that's it for me, Mitzi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, JoAnn. I'll get the word out. You never know, there might be somebody that really wants to volunteer, but they don't have the daytime hours, and they would love to come in at 10 o'clock at night and help out on that.
Golden horse.
And anybody can be a volunteer at the Boise Veterans Home if you go through the training. We even have a Boise police captain that volunteers regularly, don't we, JoAnn?
We absolutely do. Matt and his wife, Erin, they volunteer in our canteen, and so they have a huge impact in keeping our canteen open a few more hours in the week. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, our next guest was going to be Bill Hayob. He's the Bureau Chief for our Office of Veterans Advocacy, but Bill's under the weather this week. We're kind of passing the regular flu virus around our office. So I've asked Frank Fabbi to join us. Many of you know Frank. He's a regular attendee to our meetings before I started working at over there in their office. Then they kind of said, well, Mitzi's already there. She can pass on the word. But I wanted to have Frank in and tell us any particular updates on things that are going on with veterans benefits that people should know about and things that could be filed for. Frank?
Well, thanks, Mitzi, for having me in, filling in for Bill. Really quick, we've had a couple of people with the OVA retire. One of them is Michelle Paget, and the other one is Lance Santiago retired. And we've replaced them with Abel Silva. He's going to be taking Michelle's spot out in the call office. And then Iris Higgins has replaced Lance Santiago. She'll be coming on board here in another week or so. Abel's here actually today doing training, trying to get him up to speed with becoming the new service officer. As far as veterans benefits, the biggest change that's happened in the last, I would say, month or so is the presumptive conditions for particulate matters. What that means is anybody that served over in the desert, whether it was Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, any of those places, if there's presumptive conditions for asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis, the window on that is you have to have been diagnosed with that condition within 10 years from leaving the your area of operation. So if you served, like in my case, I served in Iraq in 2003. So if I was diagnosed with asthma, rhinitis, or sinusitis between 2003 and 2013, then I can file a claim showing that I was diagnosed in that period, and it would be presumptive to my time over in the desert. There is a time window on that. It's not like the Agent Orange stuff where it doesn't matter what the timeline is. There will be a change. The VA is looking at doing some change and adding some presumptive conditions also for the same area of theater over in the desert with some very rare lung cancers, but that list hasn't been formalized yet, so we're just waiting for that to move through Congress and get approved, and see which ones get approved or don't get approved, or it's Congress, so I'm just going to leave it at that. The other thing that is going on with, let's see, had a couple of things there. The in regards to VA compensation is they are changing, looking at changing the service-connected disability rating for sleep apnea. Currently, if you're the rating table says that if you have mild sleep apnea, you get a 10% rating. If you have sleep apnea with an oral device which offsets your jaw that allows you to sleep, that's a 30%. And if you have a CPAP machine, that's a 50% service-connected disability. With that being said, they're looking at changing that, and the new rating scale will be if you have a CPAP machine, it's going to go from 50% to 10%, as long as the CPAP machine is working, unless there's extenuating circumstances with your condition. Then it may go up to 50 again. But if you're currently rated at 50%, they're not going to change that. They're not going to go back and reduce everybody unless you open up that door for them to make that change, which I don't know why anybody would do that. That's why we're service officers, to make sure they don't. Also, they're looking at, yeah.
On that, when can a veteran file for that? Isn't there a time limit after their service that they can file for sleep apnea?
Ideally, you need to be diagnosed with sleep apnea while you're on active duty. With the exception, unless it's secondary to something else, like you have a serious respiratory condition that is causing it, something secondary to sleep apnea, secondary to. Yeah, that you would think it's within a year, but it's not. It needs to be shown that there were complaints and/or a diagnosis in service for that. What I tell the veterans when they're, because I do almost all of the claims coming out of Mountain Home for new people that are just getting out, and I say, hey, if you're diagnosed on Friday with sleep apnea and you get out on Monday, we're good. But if you get out on Friday and you get diagnosed on Monday, that it's going to be an uphill battle because, again, if you look at the big picture in the VA, they're only doing two things. One, did it happen on active duty, or was it caused by active duty due to an exposure? And two, did it, how bad is it, and do you have a current diagnosis? A lot of guys, have bad ankles and stuff in service. They get out and then 10 years later they want to file for it. Well, if they don't have a current diagnosis of ankle issues, it's not a chronic issue, then it's hard to get service connected for that. But I hope, did that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. They're also looking at changing the tinnitus rating. Right now, tinnitus is a 10% standalone. With that being said, they're looking at embodying that with the cause of the tinnitus. So if your tinnitus is caused by hearing loss, then it would be hearing loss with tinnitus, which I still think is going to be at 10%. But again, that's out for Congress to decide on how they're going to change that. It'll no longer be a standalone by itself. They want it to be tied to whatever the cause of the tinnitus was. It could be a TMJ thing or TMD issue that's causing your tinnitus, and again, it could be hearing loss. Kind of interested to see how that's going to flesh out. The other change that they're going to be making is has to do with mental health ratings right now, whether it's PTSD or depression or anxiety. They're looking at making their criteria for that meet the DSM-5 more accurately than it does currently, meaning that I think they're looking at taking away the total incapacitation of work off the top for the 100% level. I'm not sure how that's going to affect things. Again, we need to wait and see how that's going to happen. These came out about 3 or 4 weeks ago that they're going to be making these changes. Again, it's with Congress. They're in their questioning phase of all this stuff. I'm not up to speed on how all that works, but I do know it's not something that's going to be immediate. So there's going to be more to follow on that. I'm thinking in the next 6 months to a year, the VA will come out with a final decision on how all this stuff is going to change. The other thing with Congress is it might just all stay the same. With that being said, for those of you that are new here, we have service officers that work out in Pocatello, Idaho Falls area. We have service officers, or 2 service officers out there, 2 service officers in Twin Falls. We have 5 service officers here in the Boise office, 3 service officers in Caldwell, 2 service officers in Lewiston, and 2 service officers in Post Falls. So if you know anybody that's looking to get any assistance, they can always call our office and we'll get them directed to the nearest service officer to help them file any claims. Is there any questions on what's going on?
Does anybody have any questions for what Frank was talking about? I do have another question. I know when I started working in the advocacy office, the one thing I didn't realize is the potential for a veteran to get what's called a veteran's pension. Can you let us know who would qualify for that and what the circumstances are for that?
Okay, so the Veterans Pension Program is designed as a safety net for veterans. If the veteran is under the age of 65, to qualify for pension, they have to be making just the base amount of pension. They have to be making less than, I don't have that in front of me, $1,200 a month. And they also have to have a physical disability saying why they can't work. It does not have to be service connected. So let's say a guy served his 4 years honorably during a time of war. That's also a key factor that they have to have at least 90 days of service and 1 day of service during a time of war. That's active duty service. If they're under the age of 65 and disabled because let's say they got in a car wreck and messed up their back 5 years ago, something of that nature, then the VA will do an examination on them and see what level of disability they have, and they can file for that. The way that works is they have to have their income, and they have to have how much money they're making, the gross amount of money they make, and then subtracting all their medical bills. That's the only thing that we can subtract for that particular level of our benefit. We can't always subtract room and board or their power bills or anything like that. They have to be medical related. And that's under the age of 65, they would qualify for that. After the age of 65, they don't need to meet that medical qualification. However, they still do need to make the financial qualification because it is a means-based program. There are 3 different levels of pension. There's the base rate, there's the housebound rate, and there's the aid and attendance rate. Everybody comes in and goes, oh, I need to get the aid and attendance. Well, they may or may not qualify for that depending on how disabled they are, and it depends on the doctor, what the doctor says, whether or not they're housebound, meaning they can't get out without assistance, or if they're at aid and attendance, which is typically the skilled nursing care. They're usually right at the end. Usually when we file these type of pension claims, it's in lieu of, it's before you want to file for Medicaid. And it's also, again, a safety net for the veterans. There is also a similar program for widow's pension. Widow's pension is the veteran, again, has to meet that wartime criteria of 1 day of service and 90 days of active duty, 1 day of service during a time of war. And the financial stuff, again, how much money they're making, or in this case, because it's means-based, they're not making, minus their medical costs. That is also has the same 3 levels of base rate, housebound rate, and aid and attendance. That's substantially lower than the veterans rate of pay. I want to say the maximum on that one is $1,200 a month, 12 or 14. The numbers change all the time, or not all the time, once a year. But yeah, without having that right in front of me, I kind of don't do it right offhand. I'm not at my desk currently, but yeah, so those are the 2 different types of pensions. Again, the first box we need to check is, did the veteran serve have that 90 days of active duty service and 1 day in a time of war? And then it's a means-based program from there. We have flyers here in the office set up that we can email to individuals if they have questions, or if they come in, we give those out regularly.
And I think for this group that's some important information. I know we've run into Vietnam veterans all the time that have never sought out any benefits. They might not have anything service connected, but they're struggling with their income, and they are disabled in other ways, and they did serve during wartime. And that, like Frank said, it's a good safety net. So if you have anybody out there that you think might qualify, please contact our office, and we'll check that out. The other thing that we do, Frank, is when a veteran passes away, we do help family members with death benefits. Can you just cover that quickly?
We do. The death benefits, the veteran has to be in receipt of VA money, whether or not they're receiving money for pension or they're receiving money for compensation. They have to be in receipt of a monetary value for the widow to qualify, or the family to qualify for veterans benefits. If the veteran is service connected at, say, 10% for tinnitus and then hearing loss, that would be a $300 death benefit to the family for the veteran's burial. If the veteran is service connected, let's say the veteran dies from prostate cancer, they're an Agent Orange service connected for Vietnam service, and that is on the death certificate. The service connected disability needs to be on the death certificate for the VA to adjudicate that. So whether or not it's the actual cause of death or a contributing cause of death, that would be a $2,000 death benefit. Also, with that being said, if there is a widow, a surviving spouse, and the veteran had a service-connected death, that would entitle her to dependent indemnity compensation, or DIC. That is currently a $1,400 a month benefit. That is not means-based. It's separate from the pension, and it's a much higher rate than the actual pension would be. The widow could win the lottery, and she would still receive that. So yeah, so we can help fill that out. We also frequently assist with filing if the veteran had a survivor benefit plan with DFAS. We assist them filing that stuff. And then we also support James Earp up at the cemetery with all the other documentation that's required. If they haven't pre-registered, we help them get set up with James up at the cemetery if that's what the family wanted to do.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I think the biggest takeaway that I want to give everybody with our state service officers with the Office of Veterans Advocacy, I'm sure some of what Frank had to say, you know, you're like, oh, that's too much information almost. They're trained on all of this, and if you've ever talked to Bill Hayob, he has a photographic memory, so if he's read it or learned it, you know, he's our go-to guy to pull those facts and figures out of his head, and everybody else has it at their fingertips. But oftentimes a veteran thinks that they can, and they can go online, they can file a claim on their own. But, you know, I just want to say there's so much out there. It's kind of like if you have a great amount of income and you have your own business and things, filing your own taxes is probably not as beneficial to you as using a CPA. And it's the same way with veterans benefits. You are going to be taken care of much better if you use a professional like our service officers, and there's no cost for that. They are employees of the state, and that is a service that the state of Idaho through Veteran Services provides. Okay. Our next guest is James Earp. He is the Bureau Chief of our Veteran Cemeteries for the state of Idaho. And James, welcome today.
Good morning, Mitzi. Good morning to everybody attending the Joining Forces meeting. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I wanted to just kind of give you a quick update. As Tracy Schaner said, our division, very small within, you know, perspective of the state, with all the incredible responsibilities that we have that spans the entire state. And we also speak at a national level on many cases when it comes to Office of Veterans Advocacy, VA benefits, cemeteries and memorials, and the veterans nursing homes. So we have an incredible team here in Idaho. And as Tracy mentioned, the Veteran Cemetery, we have a project as well with the Veterans Administration for an expansion project here in Boise. The expansion project's just over $1 million. You know, we're looking at $790,000 in appropriation approved through the JFAC. It was in our original FY22 budget, and this project, when selected by the VA, again, we're on their list. We've been on their list for about 2 years, and, you know, based on the priorities and how much within their construction budget, you know, my goal is that we're looking good for October this year. But what it'll do right now, it'll help expand some areas in which we are getting very close on, you know, filling these particular sections within the cemetery. We're looking at expanding our urn burial section to create more space at that location. We've also looking at starting I think it's going to be one of the first in the nation in veteran cemeteries, a memorial courtyard in the upper section, which will allow families who choose scatter garden or memorial as their options for interment to have their memorial plaques there in the upper section of the cemetery. This will be a walk down feature. We've had some incredible designs that were put forth in front of us about 1.5 years ago. Very similar in experience as those of you who visit the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., where you kind of walk down into a very solemn place of reflection. And so that's the goal and design for that particular feature. And then, of course, to also expand a couple of our columbarium wall, which is a very popular option for a lot of families. A lot of our expansion is just due to the growth within Idaho. It's a wonderful place, and people know it, and so a lot of families are moving up here, and so we're seeing some high numbers related to that. Just for example, it's March 10th today. Just in the month of March, we've already done over 35 interments. These are numbers that, you know, a small staff, as I mentioned earlier, how small our division is, and with our outreach without the state doing things nationally as well. You know, we have 10 people taking care of trying to put together 35 services back to back to back. And so we're doing a great job. The staff is great. Our volunteers that we have here, we couldn't do it without them. They are what I call our combat multipliers. They truly know where to be at and help facilitate the success of our veterans program here at the Veterans Cemetery. With that being said, we also are in a position where we need some more assistance as far as employees. Rick had mentioned that's one of the difficult challenges that we as an organization and throughout the state, and a lot of people are feeling it, is the hiring. But we do have a seasonal temporary position, which pretty much spans from April to September. That position's out now, and it's a landscape technician. So they're going to get a chance to work with our cemetery caretaker team. I believe I will say it's one of the finest in the country. And this also gives a great opportunity for them to not only learn the skills to maintain a facility to the National Shrine standards, but also gives us an opportunity and them when we have open full-time positions to transition into that. Several of our cemetery caretakers, many of them have been with us for over 15 years. That's where they started. They took on the seasonal temp and they stayed with it, and now they're moving up into the senior position, cemetery caretaker. So I do encourage, if you have anybody who's looking for a position here right now, would love to work with an incredible team with an honorable mission, consider us at the Idaho State Veterans Cemetery in Boise. The Veteran Cemeteries Bureau, we did the dedication last October, but this cemetery has been in operation for just over a year and some change now as our Veteran Cemetery in Blackfoot. We have a full-time operation going on over there. So for those of you whose scope spans into eastern Idaho, I encourage you to certainly visit the Idaho State Veteran Cemetery in Blackfoot and meet with some of the staff. They offer the same opportunities that we have here. We do pre-registrations so we can verify eligibility. There's volunteer opportunities, things of that sort that can really kind of help build strength in the community. It's also been a short time period here, but it's been an incredible month of giving from our communities. Talking about Blackfoot, a local company called Spudnik, they manufacture agriculture equipment. They reached out to the Veteran Cemetery in Blackfoot and made an incredible donation of over $10,000 for them because they understand how strong a community is when they're together, and understanding how important veterans are to our society and to strengthen our communities, especially during difficult times that we've seen here with pandemics and global unrest. So I do appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody. My briefing's a little bit short. A lot of good information that's come out there. Our main focus, and an incredible job working with Mitzi, is we're really going to focus on Memorial Day. That is our goal. It's been 2 years since we did our traditional ceremony. And, when we had those ceremonies, we had well over 2,000 people in attendance. It's one of the largest ceremonies, especially here in the Treasure Valley, but it's a premier ceremony. We really want to get back to that. We're doing all the planning to reestablish that. So we're a little bit back and forth. COVID obviously, plays into things, but as we start to see this improvement, we'll keep our fingers crossed that things continue to improve and we can reunite the community, reunite our veterans and their families, and host a first-class ceremony that honors the service and sacrifice of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation, and that throughout the world. So thank you all. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, certainly let me know. Mitzi, if you have any questions, I'd love to help answer anything for you.
The one thing I think I'll have you touch on, because I see it again working in the advocacy office, we have people come in and they have a loved one who is a veteran that passes away, and they, first of all, hadn't considered where they were going to be buried, and so we, direct them out to you. But along with that, they need a copy of their DD 214 and things like this. And when someone has passed away, it can be quite jarring, and you have a million things going through your head, and finding paperwork like that. You do have a pre-registration process out at the cemetery. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and Frank just mentioned that as well. Our division is very well interconnected. So service officers to support the veterans' homes, service officers in the community at the various locations throughout the state, and the veteran cemeteries can assist any family member or the veteran and the veteran's family to pre-register. So pre-registration for the burial benefit essentially is a application process, which includes supporting documents. And those supporting documents on the application have to reflect their active duty service. Now, individuals who services after 1980 has to be a minimum of 24 months or the completion of their active duty obligation, meaning any reservist or National Guardsman who might have been called to active duty for a period of time, whether it was a deployment for 12 or 14 months. They don't have the 24 months, but they've met and fulfilled their active duty commitment. That's their eligibility. Anybody who is just traditional reservist or National Guardsman with no active duty service, as long as they could show proof of retirement, that they are eligible for the retirement pay, or they're service connected disabled in some way in the line of duty, we can review their eligibility or review their paperwork to determine eligibility for pre-registration. Again, it's encourage anybody to talk to service officers, stop into the cemetery, but when you pre-register with our cemeteries, it's with the state of Idaho. As you'll notice in our title, we're Idaho State Veteran Cemetery. So we're not VA employees, we're state of Idaho employees, and our facility is not a national cemetery. We have one national cemetery here in Idaho. It's in Buell. It's the Snake River Canyon National Cemetery. And the reason why I bring that up is a lot of folks want to go to the VA website for the Veterans Affairs, read up on their burial benefits, and submit a pre-registration with the National Cemetery. When you do that, you're committing to a national cemetery. Your pre-registration does not apply to the Veteran Cemetery in Blackfoot or here in Boise. And it does complicate things at the time of passing where your case is locked with the National Cemetery and causes additional heartache and stress on the family to release that case. So I do encourage you, pre-registration is a very simple process, less than 5 minutes. Have a legible copy of your discharge document, DD-214. If you served with the National Guard, the NGB-22, or if you're traditional reservist, have your 20-year retirement letter or your retirement letter from the reserves. A marriage certificate if you're married. Eligible spouses are eligible based off of their marriage to the eligible veteran, and we'll keep those on file. We'll review your records in about 4 to 6 weeks. You'll get a notification that you either meet eligibility or you don't, and that stays on file. It gives you peace of mind. You convey that to your family, friends, executor, whomever you've identified. It's your wishes to be here at the Veteran Cemetery. That's one step that the family doesn't have to take during a difficult time. If you have not visited veteran cemeteries, I do encourage you to visit at least our 2 facilities here in Boise and one in Blackfoot. The National Cemetery, again, is fairly new. They're continuing to grow there in the Twin Falls area, for the national coverage. And those of you who are in northern Idaho, a good friend of mine, Rudy Lopez, he runs the Washington State Veteran Cemetery there in Medical Lake, just outside of Spokane. That's our coverage in the state of Idaho. So visit any one of those facilities, talk with the staff member. There's nothing wrong with planning. It's essential to ensure that, one, you have the peace of mind and your family has peace of mind as well. Thanks, Mitzi. Anything else? Did I cover that okay for you?
Yep, that was perfect. And there's no cost to pre-register at all. You don't have to put any money down or anything. And you're also not locked in that that is what you have to do. If you change your mind or if for some reason your family changes their mind. Gary Randall, you have a question?
I believe that the pre-registration form is available online. Is that true? Where do we find that?
Yes, Mr. Randall, good morning. Yes, pre-registration applications are on our website. You can call our office if you prefer to not use the website, because sometimes they can be complicated. Call our office and give us your address and we'll mail one out to you. You can check with any one of the Idaho Division of Veteran Service Facilities. You can talk to a service officer. They can, put us in touch with you, or they can give you the applications as well. They're readily available. And we do work with service organizations as well. I know that several of the service organizations have their assigned service officers within their groups, and they can also help with obtaining those forms.
Okay.
Thank you.
Matt
Yes, sir.
Bennett,
Thank you.
did you have a question?
I did. I was just going to ask, do you also coordinate with families that choose to have their family member buried at a non-military facility but want a military procession or honors for burial?
Good morning, Matt. No, unfortunately, the Veteran Cemetery is basically our staff works specific to families who choose the services to be rendered at the Veteran Cemetery. So what I do know is once you start working those procedures, the first step is to work with the funeral home of your choice. And so the funeral home, the funeral directors will do that work to help set up military honors at the funeral of at the cemetery of your choice at that location. So we're only specific to our facilities here in Boise. And, we do get a lot of questions. Families want to have the service here, but have the burial at a different location, and we don't authorize any of that. Everything, when you make the choice for the Veteran Cemetery, that's for the veterans and their families who choose the Veteran Cemeteries.
Okay. And all of our funeral homes in the Treasure Valley are really good about knowing who to contact for those different services and things. So we've got a good network going there. Okay, is Mike Masterson still with us today?
Hi, Mitzi.
Hi, I'm going to bring Mike on. He has been working on a project in conjunction with James at the cemetery. And do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yep, I'll just give you a background. When I was in Wisconsin last year delivering ceremonial urns, I ran into the state cemetery director. And as a token of appreciation, he gave me a state remembrance coin that his cemetery gives out to the families of people that are buried in their cemeteries back there. So I came back and I talked to James and found out that we didn't do anything here like that. We really didn't have a budget. So over the course of the last couple of months, a small group of friends have been meeting, and that we are trying to raise $20,000 to have these state remembrance coins for veterans created. And I'm going to put this up. I sent an email out to my friends and to the IVN, but apparently it wasn't shareable. So I'm going to ask Mitzi to send this out via Joining Forces for Families. But anyway, the coin was designed by James. It's pretty cool with the statute of I Got Your Back on the front with the state motto. And on the back is a picture of the cemetery with the American flag, and it offers that peaceful resting area that our veterans are laid to rest, plus where families go. So this coin will be about 1.75 inches in diameter. It'll have a green border. It'll be antique silver. And we are in the process of raising the funds to purchase these coins, and we will turn them over to James and his staff for ultimate decisions on who gets them and other types of policy decisions. That's it.
Okay. I appreciate you taking the initiative on that and bringing that back to Idaho. And I think it's going to be a nice benefit for James and his staff to be able to give those to family members. And I'll send the information out and the artist rendering of those coins. They are quite beautiful. So, okay.
Mitzi, I do have
yeah.
one, just to thank Mike and the team that have really looked at this. Our program has, as you know, we have the ceremonial urn program. Another great volunteer local artist, John Sword, and for many years we were manufacturing a wooden pen to give to families as a token of remembrance for for that specific day or experience. And so those were in very limited quantities, and with the assistance of Mike and that small group of friends that they have, they're going to put together something that will give us an opportunity to recognize every family for their services. So again, can't thank those guys enough. Really do appreciate it, and they have the vision to do something great and make Idaho's experiences here at the Veterans Cemetery that much better.
Thank you. And I'm just going to say that, you know, as most of you know, when Mike Masterson was chief of Boise Police Department, he helped get this group started, and I'm honored to be able to carry it on and expand it across the state. That is my boss's vision, is to expand joining forces across the state. But Mike himself is not a veteran. Veterans issues was something that was very important to him while he was chief. But now that he's retired, it's still important to him. And he does a lot for our veteran community. And I just want to thank him for that. We're really lucky to have him as part of our veterans outreach community. Okay, the other person that I would like to call on today, two people actually, Betty Rogers and Norma Yeager, and they are with the film I Married the War. Betty and her husband are local filmmakers, and they got the project going, and then Norma has been pushing them along. I think she's their biggest cheerleader, and she's a pleasure to work with. So Betty and Norma.
Thank you so much, Mitzi.
And Betty, you might speak up just a bit because you're kind of quiet, at least on my end.
All right, I'll get closer. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I Married the War is our brand new documentary film about the wives of combat veterans. This film probably wouldn't have happened without joining forces and the support of the joining forces community in bringing women to us to be interviewed, and financial support, and so many amazing, you know, kind of the wind beneath our wings. And we're so excited to let you know that it's being premiered on May 4th at the Riverside Hotel in the ballroom. And we will have 4 of the women in the film at the premiere. The first one is Carmen Hinson, who was brought to us by Lance Santiago, who was mentioned earlier. Laura Nickel, the wife of George Nickel with Wyakin Foundation. Sally Jackson, the widow of our wonderful Medal of Honor recipient, Art Jackson. And I just have to mention that during her segment in the film, we show the Idaho State Veterans Cemetery, and it's quite beautiful in the film, as it is in person. And the fourth one is Terry Topmiller, who is the widow of a gentleman who took his own life after his Vietnam service, 40 years after his Vietnam service. And so these women will be present. And so I'd like to turn it over now to our awesome executive producer, Norma, who will give you all the details.
Thank you, Betty. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sure can.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be with Joining Forces. Again, I'm so thrilled with the longevity and the reach and the things that have been able to be accomplished. I Married the War is such a remarkable, amazing film that tells kind of the other part of the story about combat and the other part of the story about warriors coming home. And it will bring chills to you. And so we're hoping that people will come. They will join us for this premiere. We're going to have a lovely reception preceding. And you can find information about it, purchase tickets, which are available on a your choice donation basis at, if you Google Eventbrite, I Married the War, you will find the link for purchasing a ticket. We also want to bring together resources. So we'll have resource tables to help people understand the resources that are available to support families. This premiere and the reception is taking place during National Mental Health Month, and certainly the support for families, for veterans themselves and for their families as they negotiate the issues related to coming home after combat. So we want to solicit individuals, some of whom are probably on this call today, who are interested in having a table, 6-foot table in the lobby and potentially around the ballroom to identify those resources that their organization provides to serve the needs of family members, of veterans of combat. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say that if you're interested, I know that you can contact Mitzi and she will put you in touch with us, and we will arrange for you to have a display there. It's not only an opportunity, I think, to showcase the resources that you can provide to families, but also an opportunity for your organization to recruit volunteers, potentially even to recruit employees who may be present at this premiere screening. So we look forward to seeing you on the 4th of May. We will continue to get the word out. Doors will open at 6 p.m. We will have the film. We will have a lovely reception. Thanks to our wonderful sponsors, Optum Health, BPA, and Magellan Corporation, who are providers of behavioral health services and managers of that care. So we're grateful for their support for this event. And we hope that through tickets that people purchase, and if you have the opportunity to buy, 10 tickets and give them out to people, that the ticket sales will help us to show the film in other parts of the state. So we're definitely looking for other venues across Idaho to make this film available. It's a tremendous public awareness. It will touch your heart. It will give you information. And as far as the resource tables, I have a friend who cared for her husband who was very, very seriously disabled for many, many years. And she said to me, I never considered that I was a caregiver. I was a wife. And I think that's true for so many. They don't recognize the resources that are available. They don't have access to support for self-care and their own care, and their own lives are significantly impacted by this situation. So please come with us on the 4th of May. If you want a resource table, let Mitzi know and she'll put us in touch. And we look forward to you sharing this film opportunity, the premiere in Idaho for this multiple film festival award-winning film.
And I've been fortunate enough to get a sneak peek of this film, and I must say that it is spectacular. It really does tell the story behind the scenes at home of these women, and it's not just Idaho women. You made a concerted effort to get women from across the country on this, and I encourage everybody to come and see the film. If you provide services, contact me. Let's get a table there and make your resources available to the people that need them. So, okay, well, thank you for joining us. We're right at 9 o'clock. Again, the premiere for I Married the War is going to be May 4th. at 6 p.m. at the Riverside Hotel in Boise, and I will send the link out to purchase those tickets and to get in contact with Betty and Norma. Okay, next month our meeting will go back to being live, and we will also have it online. We are going to be at the New Horizons school over in Meridian. They have a new facility, and they've been with Joining Forces for quite some time. So if you want to meet and greet people in person, you can come over there, and then we'll also have the video option for those that can't make the meeting. So we will see everybody next month, and I will get an update